All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. We have a big week to talk about. Bitcoin went off this week. Cryptocurrency went crazy this week. We have massive liquidations to talk about. I've got a signal or a data point I want to talk about that I think is a gigantic indication of where we're going next. We're going to talk about oil. We're going to talk about interest rates. We got to talk about a few of stocks in specific, and we'll take a look at how all of our stocks did. Great week for crypto, not as good for necessarily the stock market, but we're seeing that in and of itself is a massive change from the last, I would say, 8 or 9 months. So we got a full docket today, a lot to talk about. George, what's up?
Well, the S&P finished nice today. In the week, we're only down 1%. It's funny how people give you the narrative that everything's falling apart when the stock market's at an almost all-time high. I guess if it doesn't hit the all-time high, it just doesn't matter. They figured out what to do with these treasury problems. That's good. Bitcoin, of course, is awesome. And crypto overall is awesome. Now the only question is this a true pump or is it a fake? And then the other crazy things, Tom, is Kevin Warsh is at Jackson Hole this week. How do you think he did?
We got Jackson, the infamous Jackson Hole. So,
yeah. Do you know anything about that area?
I know it's a massive vacation destination, and it's supposed to be beautiful. I've never been there.
Oh, it's amazing. When I say it's amazing, it's amazing.
All right, let's get into it. I'm distracting myself here. All right. So number one, Bitcoin. we are at 77,450, 69, 68. I mean, we're going to talk about, this was an epic, historic run. This broke several records. This was not just a good couple of days. This wasn't a quick short squeeze. I'm going to show you some of the records that this broke. We don't get this kind of move. So what does it mean? What's coming next is a different topic, right? We got to, that's our job. We got to figure out what comes next from here. But we were at 62,000 coming into this week. We're at 77,000 right now. So this was a monster move to the upside. But more importantly, we broke line of resistance after line of resistance after line of resistance. There's a structural change here. And I'm going to get a poll up. Right? Do you have access to a poll, George?
Tell me what you want me to do, Tom.
I just want to see, do people think the next move is up or down? Where do you think we're going from here?
Bitcoin, stock market, everything.
Next move in Bitcoin. And by the next move, the next 30 days. Are we going to be up 30 days from now or down 30 days?
We should revisit a poll from last Friday, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that, but
but we should.
See if we called it right.
Let's get everybody's read on where you think we're going next. I will tell you I hate to call this research, but one of the things I've talked about doing a lot more over the last 3 to 6 months is watching the very large, I also hate this word, but I'm going to use it, influencers on YouTube, the YouTube channels in the finance space, most specifically in the cryptocurrency space, in the AI data center space, channels many magnitudes bigger than what we are here. And I like to see what they're talking about because directionally, I think that tells us what consensus is. And I came across an overwhelming consensus the entire way up this entire move. So I want to see what the polls show, and then I'm going to talk to you about what I heard and why I think, as always, when everybody agrees on something, what do we know happens? It's always the same story. When everybody thinks A, B happens. That's just, and it's not bad luck. It's not a coincidence. It's trillions of dollars of money making it happen. So let's see what you guys think in this poll. Sour Mountain Gaming pisses me off how these streams get hit. And I know it's absolutely crazy. I want to send out just another. I don't know. Did anybody get the notification?
I did.
You did?
Yeah, that's why it was funny. We were talking about it earlier. Who was I talking to? I'm sorry. We were talking with David. Dave and I were talking about it, and he was saying they didn't get a notification.
I just sent a message out. So hopefully if people didn't get the notification, maybe they'll get the message.
Tom, do you think it's on? I mean, is that what you're saying?
I will let the cat out of the bag early because I think it's pretty obvious. Yes, I think it's on. So I'm going to dig deeper than that, though. That's the hot take. But we're going to go a lot deeper than that today. And when I say it's on, remember, this is among the most volatile assets in the history of the world. So that doesn't mean it's just a straight line up from here and it's smooth sailing. They're going to bring the pain. They're never going to stop bringing the pain. But I think if you look 30 days, 90 days, 180 days out, I think you're going to see the bottom's long in the rearview mirror, in my opinion. And that's, I think right now that's a contrarian view. But
we're 20K up from the bottom.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And that doesn't mean that the bottom's absolutely in, right? We have Bitcoin makes big runs. Even inside the middle of a bear market, we make big runs in Bitcoin. So I get it. Like, this is not checkmate. This is not point proven. It's one move. So we got to see what happens next. But I'm going to show you some signals and some indicators and some other reasons why. And you guys know I've been saying for all along, I think that I thought 60 was the bottom. Now, I know we kind of double bottomed, and the second time we touched 58. But we still, I think we closed every day above 60. And in real time, I was calling that the bottom, and I'm still calling it the bottom right now. So I feel good about that. I can feel confident about that without saying it's a fact, because we all know we'll find out when it happens. That's the reality. They're going to do to us whatever they're going to do to us. But there's some fundamental stuff going on here that I think has just changed. And, and then we got to talk about the stocks, because this is the first week. I'm going to call it the first week, and it's possible that there were 2 or 3 somewhere in the middle. But for the last 9 months, stock good, crypto bad. I mean, it's just been that simple. This is not complicated. And this week was the opposite. And when you see some of the moves that these things made, it is absolutely amazing. And today was one of those days where it was really crystal clear. All of my cryptocurrency was up huge today. Yet I finished at almost exactly break even on the day, because almost every single stock I have, not every one, 90% of them were red. And they almost exactly canceled out the move up in crypto. So that's a one-day thing, so I don't pay much attention to one day. I just thought it was interesting that was a really clear indication that this is the last 3 days have been some of the best crypto days we've had in a year. And with that said, today it was all offset by how poorly the stocks did. So the market did okay today. The market was red yesterday while Bitcoin was raging up, and all the cryptocurrencies. So something different went on this week, and I think it's just the beginning. So again, I understand it's almost healthy to have some retesting. Let's go retest some of these lines of support, particularly since we're very overbought from a technical standpoint. So I'm okay with the next move being a bunch of sideways action, or maybe going to retest some strong lines of what was resistance, and let's see if we can turn one of them into support. But sooner than later, I think we continue to make the move up. That's my opinion. So again, only time will tell. And we're going to talk all about it. What do you think, George? What's our poll saying? What do you think?
I think that I'm not sure this is the run that everybody thinks is going to happen. That's personally what I think. I wouldn't be in shock that it is. It doesn't really matter because I haven't changed any of my investing. So it is what it is. I'm just along for the ride for the next couple of years. You know? But I think it would be diabolical if they took and they did a rug pull at, because my whole moon theory.
Oh, yes.
You know how I am about that. And this happened at the
Tell the people just a little bit more for those who are new to the channel.
So every time there's a full moon, there's usually a pump. Or a dump. It's one of the two. It's a pump or a dump. And this didn't happen at the full moon cycle. This happened at I think it was at the half. I think it was the 19th. It was the half moon. And the full moon's like the 28th. And so with that happening, that was the reason why I'm a little concerned, is because of that. That's the real reason why I'm concerned. And there's another reason why I'm concerned. I won't mention his name. Everybody kind of knows him. But he said to buy crypto. And when that guy says to buy crypto, he wants your money.
Somebody who's managing a lot of money.
Yeah, he manages a
lot of money.
Yeah. So, but that's the whole reason. But I hope this is the run. Because this has been fun again. And this is the whole reason we got into this space when we did. I mean, it's just nice to, to go and look at your accounts and not see yourself getting beat up. And when I say I got beat up, I got from the top of where I was, I got beat up 75%, 80%. And,
I mean, you're not alone.
That wasn't all real money, but there was a large portion of it was real money.
And then the other thing is, right, but the other thing for everybody to remember, and this is very difficult because as soon as your portfolio reaches a certain number, that becomes the benchmark. So, at the absolute top, obviously that's the number we all remember, and we go, you know what, I'm down X since then, but you got to judge, in the big picture, are you up or down? And even if you are down, how much are you really down? If you haven't been buying or selling and it's all just paper moves. Now, that doesn't mean it's not horrifically painful to watch, it just feels like your money is just melting away. Oh. So, I mean, there's no way. We're humans. That's human emotion, and you're gonna feel that, and that's what they do, and that's how they get people to buy high and sell low. I can't tell you how many you guys know. Like, standard operating procedure for retail investors is to buy high and sell low, and it doesn't matter how much you convince yourself you're not going to do that. At some point, for most retail, and I'm not saying everybody, and I know particularly a lot of the members that I see in the comments section, I know a lot of us are good at holding on, diamond hands or whatever they call it, and that's important. But most of the rest of the world isn't, and they're so far beyond their threshold of pain that they sell. Yeah. That's what happens.
Well, and I had to sell, like I needed money. Like I went long on Bitcoin And I never even got close to my call or anything, but I needed the money. So I'm like, oh, why don't I just close this out? So it was a stupid move. I knew it was a stupid move, but when you need the powder, you need the powder, you know?
I mean, it's not like you did it. I know what you're doing, so you invested it in something else that's going to pay off. But you can't, and that's part of the equation. It's like so many of us have been talking about. Oh, buy the dip, buy the dip. Oh, well, I bought the dip 50 times. I'm out of money. I can't buy the dip anymore. So, like, that's the same phenomenon. Like, it's a trade. You want this stock. Sometimes it comes down to, I want this stock so bad, I'm going to sell that stock. Well, even though it's way down, I think this one's, and sometimes that's a good decision, but it's not easy.
Tom, so what I did was I tried to get a line of credit from Japan.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they're giving out money at basically zero. So I can do that. I can pay back zero on interest rates.
Yeah. Well, I think that they raised them to like 1.
Okay, I can't even do that. You know?
Yeah.
I have a question. So Dave just said the same thing you said. And that 82 is when you feel that it will be on. I thought that was funny that he said the same thing.
82,000, there's a bunch of technical things converging at 82,000, where if we can close above that and confirm that, then I think there's, at that point, it's hard. It would be very difficult to argue we are not in a bull market. And that doesn't mean we candle wick above 82. We got to close it and hold it. So my call versus most of what the rest of the world would consider, this is still a little bit early. But I don't think it's early. I think it's been obvious for months and months now. But we'll see. We won't know until it happens. But this is a good start. I mean, I'll take the 58,000 to 77,000 run. By the way, I mean, I've had this light blue line at the very top of your screen. I mean, this goes back. I can't even go that far back on the 15-minute chart, but look at how boom. I mean, that's how this stuff works. So, okay, we blew through 5 lines of support without blinking. So now we ran into a little resistance here. That's okay. And even some sideways stuff is okay. If we go back and retest this, that's not the end of the world. I don't mind if we go back and retest this, and there's really some lines in the middle. I think somewhere, in this area, between 70 and 71,000, if we can hold 70, there's a lot of lines of support. I don't have every single one on this page. My point is, when I say the bear market's over and it's up from here, that doesn't mean that we're not going to go have volatility anymore, and we're not going to go retest some lines of what were resistance. It's one of the most important things you can do structurally is take a line of resistance and turn it into a line of support. And here, you can see it happening in real time. And, the 15-minute is almost hard to even talk about things on a 15-minute time frame, but this 69,000 was the peak of the previous cycle back in November of 2021. Boom, we ran up like crazy, candle wicked above this, went down below it, bumped into it on one side of this line, and then all of a sudden we were bumping into it on the other. That is turning resistance into support. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So these retests are just fine. And you got to expect them. You can't panic. So if we go from 77 down to 71, if you're panic selling, I would just, say, understand, like, look back throughout the history of Bitcoin. This is how it goes. And it's the same thing. We just lived the opposite of this. If I go to the 1-day time frame, This first green candle right here, we were at, let's see. We got over on the daily RSI. We passed 70. We got to 72. We were overbought on this first green candle. So if you use that as a signal and said, I got to sell, we're overbought, right? You would have made you'd have got out way early. Now, what's even harder is this green candle, which is another massive, this is 3 green candles in a row. And I'm going to talk specifically about these because these are special. They did something that's never been done before. This green candle, we were at over 80 on the daily RSI. So 70 is considered overbought. Over 80 is hugely overbought. We're now at 85. So, and let's see, this day we were at, a little over 80, and now we're at 85. So, if you would have said on this day, I got to get out of here, we're overbought, you'd have missed this. And then this day, now you're over 80, you got to go, I really got to get out of here. But sometimes you got to understand what's happening with the rest of all the data points. The daily RSI is just one data point. So this data point was screaming sell, but in a vacuum, you'd run for the hills. But just look right above it. Look at the MACD. On this first day, we had a bullish crossover. So yeah, we were in overbought territory. On the same day, we had a bullish crossover. Those are very conflicting signals. So now you got to keep looking for more signals. What else is going on? This is a part of building the picture to understand where are we at? And none of it's a guarantee, obviously. We still only just take our best guess. But you can see we continue to run up, and we could easily continue to run up. We're now at 85 on the daily RSI, and we could just as easily run up another $10,000. I'm not saying that we will. I mean, if this happened 100 times, 80 or 85 of those times, the next move would be somewhere between a small, medium, or large move to the downside. But it's not happening 100 times, where it's happening this one time. So we got to figure out what's next. And again, if we do have a little pullback, if we retest any of these, what I'm watching is if this RSI from 85, if we can even get down under 70 into the high 60s, that's going to be a reset, in my opinion. So I'm not waiting for this to get back to 50 or back to 30 oversold. I think there's a real scenario where we have a little downward pressure or a little sideways price action. We get back under 70 on the daily RSI, and then we got room to make another run to the upside. That's my opinion. We'll see what happens. And obviously by Monday, now, the weekend is different than the week. There's going to be lower volume. There's a lot of market participants that don't participate on the weekend. So I suspect we'll just drift through the weekend, but we'll see what happens. Oh, you know what, George?
What?
We haven't asked anybody to smash the like button. That's why. That's what's different today. Help us out. Smash the like button. Hit the thumbs up button. Do us a favor. It helps the stream in real time. It's much appreciated. We're just getting going here. So if you just got here or you missed the beginning, we're just getting going. We got a lot to talk about. How's our poll looking? So let's see. Bitcoin's next move before the end of the month. Oh, we got we're here you go. This is the classic I don't know scenario, and this is legendary. This is exactly where they want us, and I understand why we're there. This is a confusing. I was just talking about two two indicators that were saying the exact opposite thing. So we got 75K or lower, which was the lowest choice on the list at 34%. 80K or higher, which was the highest choice on the list at 32%. Those were flip-flopped a minute ago. And then 78 to 80K, which is kind of right where we are right now, at 31%. So we have a virtual three-way tie for first, which means essentially we're just split. This is the classic, very confusing point in the cycle to try to figure out what exactly comes next. But I think the real answer is that everybody should remember it doesn't really matter that much what comes next in the next day, week. We're just going to keep our eye on certain things and see, are we holding, even in a pullback, if we have a pullback, did we pull back and hold a really nice line of support and catch some support? And that's now a new, bottom for us, and we can build off of that. A lot of times that's better than just running up to 80 on the daily RSI, 85, 90, 95. Like that's not helping us figure out what comes next. It's what comes after that that helps us figure out where we're going. So next week to me is going to be about, can we catch a line of support somewhere? For all I know, we may continue running, and then we're going to me, if we continue running, we're just going to have to keep waiting to figure out if this, is permanent or not. But if we have a natural pullback at some level, how high can we get? What line of support do we catch ourselves at? Or is there a structural turnaround and we just start getting lower and lower and lower? So, we're not going to know that over the weekend, unless something dramatic happens. But something dramatic just did happen. So should we go through and talk about, I want to show you what these 3 days right here. And remember, we did not, this day's not over. So technically this daily candle is not closed yet. We're at 77,400. We did get as high as 70, according to this chart, which is the Coinbase Bitcoin chart. We got to exactly $79,500.00. So just under $80,000. So there was, somebody had a gigantic sell order in at that exact dollar amount, because it didn't get 1 penny past that. But that's a massive run up. So we held the majority of our gains so far today. And, now the U.S. equity markets are closed. So we'll see. Bitcoin's been pretty sideways ever since. It's actually up a little bit. So let me find.
We did say when it moves that it would move.
And that's the key to remember. And this is why, and you've said this for weeks, George, months, years. If you're trying to time the bottom, if you're trying to time the market anywhere, if you're a day trader, there's certain things you can do on a very short-term basis to try to watch very short-term moves. If you're a swing trader, okay. But if you are a dollar cost average investor, if you're a buy and hold investor, if you're looking to invest in quality stocks and make money, over time, Bitcoin moves like crazy. Like, the moves down are vicious, right? Look, this move down, that was a 20% move down. Like, that was a tough week. That's brutal. But to the top, this was a 26 or 26.5% move up to where we are right now, 24%. So these moves are fast. If you got out at the wrong time, if you panicked and sold at the bottom here and you're waiting for your opportunity to buy in because you had this, and you might have thought, well, that's not the bottom. And then you had this, and you could have said, well, you know what? The 4-year cycle, the other 10,000 reasons not to buy. And this is why dollar cost average people in the long run win. You buy some here, you buy some here. And you know what? If that's not the low, well, then you buy some more down here. And if that's not the low, then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I can't tell you guys what to do. You guys do whatever you want, but that's how I do it. And for me, that's why a lot of these stocks, like Cleanspark's at $11.98. I think that is laughably, ridiculously underpriced. And it's not alone. I'm just picking Cleanspark. Having said that, I'm up like 300% on Cleanspark.
Did you guys hear? Let me be the first to tell you. I couldn't believe it. BTDR is ahead of Cleanspark.
So today, yes, George checked this at the very end of the day. BTDR passed Cleanspark in market cap. And I'm going to go through all the market caps because some interesting stuff is going on right now with these market caps. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at a few charts and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Should we close this poll out? Oh, now 80K is pulling into the lead. So we'll leave it open for a minute and then we'll start a new one when George gets back. And Sour Melon Gaming is saying Cleanspark should be a solid 30. So that's what I'm talking. I agree, Sour Melon Gaming. So, but this is the thing. I didn't panic sell. I didn't FOMO buy. I just bought. And for most of these, what were Bitcoin miners, which are now either hybrids or some are almost pure play data center, neo cloud companies, there was an 18-month window where if you were dollar cost averaging in those 18 months, you know, you were buying Cleanspark, that might have got under $2. I can check. I know this. I was buying Bitfarms, which is now Keel, at like 38 cents. It's at $3.32. Now, I'm not up 10x on that because I didn't get all of my shares there, but my dollar cost average in Keel is somewhere around $1. So it's triple that right now. So even though I think that's underpriced, although they've got some business to take care of, so we can talk about that, I'm good. Like, I'm not panicking about any of these. The only position I'm upside down in, and I've said it all along, and it is my intention to get rid of, and I have identified this on the stream, I am going to sell my position in Marathon. So on the members only stream, I went in detail why I held off a little bit on the day I was going to sell it because some stuff happened. And now I'm going to show you guys something happened on the Marathon chart that's making me wait a little bit. So I still intend to get rid of all of my Marathon. And I may now take it out of this industry altogether and put it into a bunch of other things. I was going to shift it around into some other companies in the same industry here that I had a higher level of confidence in, but I think I'm going to spread it around a little more than that. But I'm going to take my time and I will show you the Marathon chart later, why I think it just had an unbelievably clear breakout, and I think we can expect some short-term positive price action in Marathon. And that doesn't mean I've changed my opinion on Marathon. I still think that for me, I'm very heavy in this industry. To me, it's the only stock I'm red on. And, you know, a couple of times I've gotten back to green and then it gets taken out again. And I'm not seeing anything from management and the company that tells me, oh, I should hold on to this when I have so many of these other companies that I have so much higher conviction in. So I will get rid of it, but that doesn't change the fact that just from a pattern standpoint on the charts, I do think the next couple of bucks are up. And, you know, if I'm wrong, then maybe that's going to end up looking greedy, trying to get those last couple of dollars. But either way, we'll see what happens. I see Brett saying, Tom, get ready for 150K by end of year. So I have started to see some bullish predictions come back in. Having said that, the vast majority, so I told you guys earlier, I've been trying to watch all the very large YouTubers that talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin miners, the AI data centers, all the stuff that we talk about here on the channel. And with one exception, I'll just say who the exception was. Is it Cryptos Are Us? I am George. You guys probably drop in the comments. I'm sure a lot of you know who I'm talking about. Not our George here, the other George. He's very bullish, as usual. Not a criticism, it's just what it is. He's very bullish, so he remains bullish. But virtually everybody else that I watched said almost like they had a memo and passed it around. It was, this is a nice run, but we have not bottomed yet in Bitcoin. You can expect that somewhere in October, we will go below $58,000. And then this is where it varies a little bit. Some people think 55, 50, 45, 40,000. And then that will be the bottom. And then in 2027, we'll have a bull market. You could go search YouTube and just write the script down because that's what you're going to hear. And to me, the one thing that I do know about the stock market, and in the end, there's very little that we know with the level of any certainty. The one thing I do know is when everybody agrees that one thing is going to happen, I don't know what's actually going to happen, but it won't be the thing that we think is going to happen. Otherwise, we'd all be multimillionaires or billionaires by now. There's people with trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of money. And if I figured that out in one night, you think they don't know? They know they know our pain threshold to the millimeter. So if that's what everyone's expecting, I would tell you it's my opinion to expect that's not what's going to happen.
It's funny because I think the exact opposite. I feel everybody's opinion is that this is on. And everything that I'm seeing is this is on. And I'm feeling that's the wrong opinion. You see what I mean?
Well, look at our poll. A third, a third, right, a third. Right. So
it would be nice that it needs to be. I remember selling I was just thinking about, I sold the last time I really even thought about Bitcoin was, remember it popped up to 86 for a minute?
Way back.
I sold, that's when I sold. I was like, there was just a lot of news and articles. And I really thought we'd get real close to 50. And that 58 now looks so beautiful, doesn't it?
We still don't know. Right. We still don't know, right? I've given you guys I have a very strong feeling. I've had that feeling when this happened in real time. This was on June 5th. I said, this is the bottom. So that doesn't mean that I'm right. And I didn't say that I was right on that day. I said, in my opinion, this feels like the bottom. It was a candle.
You missed it by 1 week, just so you know, because I picked on you. Because I remember I said, "Was Tom going to be right, or is George going to be right?" And you missed it just by 1 week. But 58 was real close. I mean,
right. I mean,
it's basically calling the bottom.
So I called it here, and we had this little event for a few days. So okay, if you want to say, well, 58 was actually the bottom, not 60. Okay, that's fine. But guess what? I bought at 60, and I bought more at 59, and I bought more at 58. So, and had it kept going down, I would have kept buying more. And if it gets back there again, I'll buy more again. I will not buy any more unless it gets back there. My positions are totally full unless everybody's right and we follow the 4-year cycle to perfection and we take this out and there's a bottom, in October, November, December. The one thing I want to remind everybody, because there's a little bit of misinformation's the wrong word. I'm going to say a misinterpretation of the last cycle. By all measures, and I'll go there. Oh, let's go take a quick look. Got to go back in time. We're not close. I'll get there. Give me 20 seconds. One more. There it is. We double bottomed basically in November and December of 2022. But this happened in June 18th of 2022. We had, and if you compress this, we had a vicious, look at this vicious run down. Right? We had a little bit of a run up in the middle, and then from March of 22 to June of 22, Bitcoin tanked. That's a 64% move to the downside. I believe that although it wasn't numerically the bottom, I think this was the bottom for Bitcoin. And I'll explain. You can see on the RSI, look at the only period in that was the low. This is June. This is the most oversold we got. We actually kind of double bottomed from January for a longer period because you see this shaded red. This lasted longer. I mean, we were down to 20 on the daily RSI. We didn't ever get back down there. When FTX crashed, went out of business, we still didn't get. We got down to 25 on the daily RSI. So, if you guys remember, the FTX situation, I don't really like to use the term black swan because I think it just gets thrown around too much. But for Bitcoin, I think it's fair to say that resembled a black swan event. For those of you who weren't there, and I know a lot of you were there and remember it well, FTX was considered without question the gold standard in all of the entire crypto universe. It turned out to be a disaster that unfolded before our eyes, crashed and went to zero, effectively, in a matter of days. That had ripple effects. They touched every corner of the cryptocurrency universe. There was a bank that the U.S. government had to bail out so it didn't go out of business because of the FTX situation. This was one of the single most negative events in Bitcoin history. It was an outlier. It's like looking at, and I got to be careful, that thing that happened in March of 2020. If you guys remember that thing that happened, and the market crashed and Bitcoin tanked, it would be like saying, well, that was a part of the 4-year cycle. No. That was event driven. You want to talk about a black swan event? That was a one-off event. And to me, I think if you look at this in every way possible, the real bottom of the last market was, I think it's, honestly, you'll mostly disagree. We'll do a poll. Do you guys agree? Just ask if people think the bottom was in June of 2022 or November, December of 2022. You'll probably mostly disagree with me. I think it's crystal clear that this was the absolute bottom. We then had a black swan event that created the illusion that this was the bottom. Now, literally speaking, these prices got lower than this price. So obviously, you know, if you want to technically look, you could say, yeah, that was the lowest it got. That was the bottom. But I think structurally speaking, this period of time, because you can see it immediately corrected itself, right? We were here in November at 21,000, and we were back there in January. We had a nightmare in the middle where it looked like maybe all of cryptocurrency was dead, right? That was the main conversation. Cryptocurrency's dead. Bitcoin's dead. It's a failure. This is a systemic breakdown in the entire system. It's over. That was the prevailing conversation. So yes, we took a hit for a couple of months, a month and a half, whatever it was. But I don't think that had anything to do with the 4-year cycle. I think this was the 4-year cycle playing out. This was the 64% move down by Bitcoin. This was the lowest we got on the daily RSI, right? This was the deep red on the MACD. Like everything about this was screaming the bottom. And if I add the volume, look, massive volume. There was massive volume down around here and massive volume down around here. So those are all, that's your capitulation. Those are all, and then, and then from here, we did run up 40%. And then we retested what I think was the bottom. Right, there's your, and then we ran up again. So I just think that had FTX not happened, you know, if this, if that, I understand, like we can't change what happened, but I think trying to attribute this to the 4-year cycle is mislabeling or misunderstanding what really happened right here. And I think it's almost universally accepted that this was a part of the 4-year cycle. But we know, I mean, there's objective, it's a fact. Bitcoin crashed and it didn't take a long time. It was 2 days. Right? This was FTX. Down 25% in 2 days.
It's funny, Tom, because this still resonates with me, and I won't tell everybody why, but you guys, if you've watched for a long time, you know why. This was a very unique situation that a lot of people were covered, so to speak, without saying exactly. And because if we start talking about it, we'll get freaking.
We just dropped like 30 people right now.
Yeah. It's just because it's so true that this is what they do. That, you know what I mean? But that also brings me to Tether, by the way, Tom, because, you know, one of the big four did an accounting for Tether, and they said, what did they say?
They issued a clean opinion, but they said they could not comment due to confidentiality. Yeah.
So I don't know what that usually costs. It's probably between 10 and 20 million. That's what that costs. I'm not saying I agree with it. What does it tell me what a clean opinion means from an accounting point of view?
An unqualified opinion from a public accounting firm that's performing an audit. There's multiple levels of service. This was an actual full-blown audit. That means, and you'll read the language and it'll say something to the effect of, the attached financial statements contain no material misstatements. So, meaning, we're not vouching that this is total perfection, but we've tested this and we haven't found anything materially wrong with it. We've done our full due diligence on the internal controls, on the actual assets themselves, and we think there's nothing materially wrong with this. That's what's called an unqualified opinion, which is what you want from your auditor, and what 95% of audits result in is an unqualified opinion. A common qualification would be called, you're probably familiar with, a going concern. Hey, you know what? Everything on this balance sheet is correct or not materially incorrect, but it's worth noting there's an exception. This company could run out of money in the next 12 months. So that's a going concern qualification. So now you're not unqualified anymore. The opinion has now been qualified with a qualifier.
But here's my question, Tom. How long did it take for them to do that audit? Like when everybody started making all that noise. Well, wasn't that almost 2 years?
You've been talking about it for 4 years.
Yeah. So this is 4 years. So you can do a lot of activities in 4 years to cover things up.
Well, they made billions and billions of dollars in that period of time. So
without a question of a doubt. And I guess it just pisses me off because dude, we went and looked at their audit. We went and studied their audit.
Well, and they did a lot of things before they did a real audit. They hired the accountants to do this and do that and do this and do that. And then finally they did go out and get an actual full-blown audit. So
right. And when you have billions and billions of dollars, you can figure it out. You can hire some really good people. You know what I mean?
I'm just reading the comments. Thank you, Dave, if that's true. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And Alexander said, I'm kind of past the Bitcoin and crypto in general, just hoping the AI stuff takes off, which is the funny part, because what I'm really looking for, I think we're going to get a continuation of this for a brief period of time. And in the meantime, all of these stocks are pulling back. The stocks that we're running, right? Riot's down 5%, Cleanspark's down 5%. IREN down another 1.5%, CIFR down over 8%, TerraWolf 5%. All of Nebius had only down 0.5%, but it got beat up earlier in the week. Applied Digital 5%, CoreWeave 2%. So I would like to get into some of these. I am diversified across this. My biggest position is IREN. And I do still think from a value proposition, the top three of these companies are, just from a market cap standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, it's CoreWeave has by far the most revenue. Actually, Nebius has the highest market cap. And then IREN's in third place in both of those. So those three have kind of separated themselves a little bit. Some others may catch up over time. I think IREN is best in breed out of those three. I watched a video last night of a YouTuber who, he's not specific to this space at all, but he did a solo video on Nebius, and I won't say who they are, and I'm not going to name names because I don't like to criticize people. He's doing what he does. His channel's 20 times bigger than me, so I guess he's smarter than I am. He talked for 12 minutes about Nebius, and he really didn't say anything at all. Somewhere in the middle, I remember I wrote a note down. Their balance sheet is a fortress. He didn't show us the balance sheet. Didn't go through the balance sheet. Just said, it's a fortress. So I'm just going to spend a second, because this is, when you listen to people on the internet, this is why we always say, do your own due diligence. And that includes me, and that includes George, and that includes anybody else you listen to. And listen, it's not even that I'm saying people are trying to mislead you in any way, shape, or form. It's just that you're the one buying the stock, right? That guy's not spending your money. You are. So if you don't know it through and through, two things. You could be dead wrong because you're listening to somebody maybe that doesn't know what they're talking about. Or two, even if you're exactly right, if there's a pullback that's long enough and strong enough, you're going to lose the conviction you never had to begin with fairly easily, and you're going to have bought high and sold low. So that's why we harp on this. But I just want to spend a second and go through this. Because, so here, August 19th, Nibius Group announces pricing of upsized private offering for $5 billion of convertible senior notes. Now, I'm not criticizing them for doing that. They have a massive backlog. They have a massive build out there in the middle of. We all know that if you want to be a data center or neo cloud, that is a capital intensive business to be in. So this meets my expectation that they're borrowing a lot of money. That's what they need to do to realize that gigantic backlog of revenue that they have. But understand, that's $5 billion. If we take a look at their balance sheet, as of June 30th, they already had $8.5 billion of debt. Plus that that's $13.5 billion of debt. Plus, in prepayments and deposits, they've effectively borrowed another $5 billion from their customers. And that's significant because remember, when they get to recognize all that revenue in years forward, $5 billion of it won't be cash. It'll be on revenue on paper. They've already been paid that cash. So they're $18 billion in debt. Now, their balance sheet's just fine. They have $8 billion in cash, plus the $5 they're going to get. They're going to have $13 billion in cash. They will spend the vast majority of that building out their system, which is exactly what they should do. But saying this balance sheet is a fortress is a very subjective statement. And if I were to pick 100 words to describe this balance sheet, fortress would not be one of the first 100 that came to mind. And again, I think this balance sheet is just fine. There's obvious risk in here. We see it. We all know these are high-risk stocks, right? But there's a lot of cash. There's an underlying business model. If you believe in the business model, then you understand this is what the balance sheet's going to look like. But certainly not a fortress. And then another thing he said was they will capture the vast majority of the cloud compute. Well, I mean, that's just blatantly, wildly incorrect, right? They may do great, but they will be dwarfed by many other companies, right? They're the biggest of these tiny companies that we're looking at trying to find a breakout winner. But Oracle's in this business. They're going to do magnitudes more than this. You can't compare. You've got some of the top 10 companies in the world that are participating in this business. So Nebius isn't going to get the vast majority of this business. And they don't hope to, and it's not their business model. What they hope to is get their share proportionate to the build out that they're building. And the cash flow on this stuff is incredible. So if AI works, these companies will win big, and they're going to have huge cash flow, even in spite of what I just talked about. If everything goes the way it's supposed to, and they can execute their build out, and somehow, the horrible things that everybody says are going to happen to AI, if those things don't happen, then this company should win big time. But you gotta know, you gotta understand. Like when you're done watching a video and all you heard was a bunch of hyperbole and hype without any actual numbers or facts or reality based like counterpoints, go dig into it yourself, I guess is my point. Because if you just take a look, I mean, I wouldn't call a company with $18 billion in obligations, a fortress of a balance sheet. We see companies that's assets. There's companies in this space whose current assets are 5 times their total liability. So that's a fortress. This is what you would expect this company to be. It's not upside down. It's not, in my opinion, This is not upside down. It's not bad. This is just pretty much what I would expect to see of a healthy company that stands a really good chance of succeeding if things go the way we think they're going to go. So I like this company, but I will tell you, this is the biggest market cap out of all of them. And if you look, they had $582 million in revenue. CoreWeave has a lot, and then $981 million in 2026 for the 6 months ended. CoreWeave has much more revenue than them, and their market cap's lower. Let me see if I can find the right chart. Here. And this was as of yesterday when the market closed, so whatever happened today, for instance, BitDeer was behind CleanSpark yesterday pretty substantially. So they closed a big gap, George. This was $3.2 billion to $2.8 billion. But BitDeer was up 9% today on a day that everything else got killed. So they actually jumped CleanSpark, but that's not what we're talking about. Although I made this chart because I do think looking at the bottom half of this chart, you're going to find some opportunities of companies that have time. I mean, look at Nebius with almost a $56 billion market cap. CoreWeave, $49 billion. And again, look at the pie chart. Those two, look at what those two here. The top 5 companies are 73% of the entire market cap. This is $190 billion of market cap. I listed 15 companies out, one of which, ABTC, actually isn't even in the AI space. A lot of these are hybrids. Marathon has dedicated themselves to being in the data center business, but they don't have any contracts yet. At the other end of the spectrum, CoreWeave doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin. It's all, and IREN's heading that way, and HUT doesn't have anything to do. Well, they are the largest shareholder of ABTC, so they have indirect exposure to Bitcoin, but they themselves do no Bitcoin mining, none. HUT, that was. So I wanted to make this chart because I think there's some things down here. If you look at CleanSpark, it's a $3 billion market cap. I mean, CoreWeaves and Nebius are more than 15 times the market cap of CleanSpark. I don't view those as companies that are 15 times ahead of where CleanSpark is. That's my personal opinion. Everybody's going to have different opinions on these, and I know a lot of these stocks are love them or hate them. So you're going to get opinions on both. BitDeer, I think, is one of the most interesting stocks down here at around what is probably now $3 billion. Let's go check. So they are now $3.09 billion. You can see they had a huge day. They were up 9% today when everybody else got wrecked. I think they got an upgrade from somebody. I couldn't find any. There was no news specific to today. Drop in the comments if you guys found any other reason why this thing ran like the wind today when everything else got destroyed. This is the biggest Bitcoin miner by far. They have passed Marathon. They mine about almost 1,000 Bitcoin per month. So, you could argue Bitcoin was on fire, so BitDeer was on fire, but ABTC was down today. Marathon, which is primarily at this point, from a revenue standpoint, just a Bitcoin miner, they were down. So the rest of the Bitcoin miners didn't get the bounce today. Some of them got it on other days this week. There were some big moves to the upside. We'll look at that in a bit. So you can see with this up, now it's basically 3.1 billion. And CleanSpark, while this was up 9%, CleanSpark was down almost 5%. So this is now 3.07 billion. So, I mean, they're almost identical, but technically, one's past the other. But to me, these are two of the most interesting names on the list. Down here in the $3 billion range, 1/15th of a Nebius or a CoreWeave are CleanSpark and BitDeer, which have very interesting business models, in my opinion, and a lot, I think, massive potential. And the fact that CleanSpark could be at $3 billion, and Keel, and by the way, I have a big position in Keel, so I'm not knocking this company, but they've signed exactly 0 data center agreements, power agreements. They're waiting for their first, substantial agreement. CleanSpark has a multi-billion-dollar deal already done. They have a lot more capacity than Keel does. Now, I think Keel's actually going to be worth a lot more than $2 billion. So this isn't an argument against Keel. I just think CleanSpark at $3 billion, being almost the same as Keel, being 1/15th the size of these guys. I mean, it's 1/5 the size of IREN. And IREN, I think, is undervalued. Now, that does not mean that I think every single stock on this list is undervalued. Here's the ones I don't get. I'll just tell you. And I own these are my 2 smallest positions. I own a small position in TeraWulf. I own a small position in CIFR. I'm just simply in them because they were among the first movers to really commit themselves and dedicate themselves to AI, although they've moved pretty slowly, in my opinion. These are $7 billion and $8 billion companies. I think there's for me, I think in every way I can measure it, I think CleanSpark's a better company than CIFR, and it's a better company than Wolf. I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with that, but that's my personal opinion. But I just think it's helpful to compare. These are the 15. This is what they look like. By the way, ABTC passed Hive, so they jumped out of last place. These are small-scale companies compared to the top of this list. These are wildly different companies. The top 2 companies are 55% of the total market cap of this whole space. Now, at the moment, they probably represent 55% of the AI data center revenue. So from that regard, that could be proportional. But I think 18 months from now, they will not have anywhere near 55% of the revenue because a lot of contracts are already on the books for other companies. The revenue just hasn't kicked in because performance hasn't started yet. So I do think you're going to see a big shift in that. If you just got here, if you could please smash the like button. It does help us out a lot. George, you know how many likes we happen to have currently?
Hang on, I got to switch. I was trying to do a poll. I couldn't come up with anything. I'm too slow.
Oh.
So I got to switch back. Hang on. We are at 74.
So, all right, 74 likes. Let's get to 100. Let's double it. Let's get to 150.
Tom, I saw something interesting that I want to bring to your attention.
Yes.
And that was a year ago, the total market cap for crypto.
This will be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think it's kind of really interesting to look at because October 14th, 2025 was the top at $4.09 trillion. So.
And where are we now?
We are now at 2.5.
And we've been there. We've been in that 2 to 2.5 for 9 months.
But that's real interesting to see that. You know what I mean? And to see the low for this year was basically the 4th of July.
So let's see. I didn't see this poll. If you already did it, then it's redundant.
No, I just said if the crypto, if we're in a bull market now.
When was the bottom of the previous crypto winter? So if you just got here, we spent maybe 20 minutes ago, we spent a bunch of time talking about the fact that I think I made the case that, in my opinion, I will always look at June of 2022 as the bottom of the last crypto winter. Now, if your definition is strictly when did the price get to its absolute lowest, objectively speaking, that was in November and December. I'm not disputing that. It's a fact. I just think that from a cycle standpoint, the actual bottom was in June, in my opinion. That is when everything converged. And if not for the unwinding of the entire cryptocurrency environment by FTX, which, by the way, was everyone, all the big money pressed every panic button they knew how to press to terrify everybody through that situation. But like everything else, 1 month later, we were right back to where we were, and then we went on an epic bull run for 2 years. So take it for what it's worth. Drop in the comments. You guys like CleanSpark, TerraWolf, or CIFR? Those three, to me, are an interesting comparison. Marathon at $4 billion is one of those gambles. I'm no longer willing to gamble with them. So I've told everybody I intend to sell them. I'm going to sell them. And they have no deals. They keep talking about deals. They'll probably get 2 gigantic deals the day after I sell, and I'm come to terms with that. It'll be whatever it's going to be. But if they do, right, if they do a turnaround like they did once before, right, they fumbled 2022. It was like 12 straight months of operational updates that were just gibberish nonsense, in my opinion. But forget opinion, objectively, their hash rate went down month after month after month until somewhere in the middle, they were at like 1 exahash. They had closed their facility. They couldn't open their new facility. It was a disaster. But even at that time, in real time, I kept saying, this is a disaster right now. But if they execute their plan, it will be better late than never. And they did finish that plan. They executed that plan very late. They missed a year of Bitcoin mining pre-halving that would have changed Marathon's story drastically. Keel has made a couple of those mistakes in the past. They were Bitfarms when they made them. They made some financial decisions that changed the trajectory of this company dramatically. The fact that they are, in my opinion, now on the other side of all that, they've rebuilt this company as something new that I am invested in and I think is worthy of an investment, although I did put them on the hot seat. I think they need that first deal, right? At some point, I will start to look at them the way I'm looking at Marathon and saying, without that first deal, I can only wait for so long, since I have so many other of these companies and I'm just heavy into this space. And there's other companies that I like better. So those are my thoughts on that.
Keel doesn't play well with others. I don't think Keel's going to be bought out by anybody.
That's an interesting proposition because, one of the things that really hurt Riot, they've recovered from it, but it killed Bitfarms, was a hostile takeover attempt that I was on record the day they started that. Those of you who have been with me, the second that was announced, I said it was the most ridiculous idea. It has no chance of happening. It was nonsense. And Riot paid for it dearly, and Keel paid for it much worse. And the thing is, you could say, well, at least they accomplished taking out their competition. When you're at that time, these were just straight up Bitcoin miners. Your competition, when you're a Bitcoin miner, your competition is not another Bitcoin miner. It's the global hash rate of the Bitcoin network. Right? That's what you're competing against, which, effectively dictates the difficulty level, and that's all you care about. So trying to take out a tiny player in that doesn't move the needle in one way or another. It's not like, well, at least I took the competition out. No, that's you lost 10 months. Now, Riot themselves got lucky because while they were trying to do a hostile takeover of Bitfarms, a group of advocate investors built up a big enough share to gain influence on the board and convinced Riot that they needed to start building out for AI that they did not want to do. So they ultimately, announced upon further review, we're going to take 700 megawatts and move them over into the AI data center column. Well, their stock ran like the wind after that, and they've gotten deals. So that was all folly. I don't understand. I'll never know what the purpose of any of that was. Riot has recovered much more nicely. You can see they're almost an $8 billion market cap. Keel's a quarter of that. We'll see what happens, right? Every deal makes a difference. But the original point was George was saying he doesn't think anybody's going to buy any of these out. I think these have now all become dramatically better buyout opportunities now that they have power agreements than they were as Bitcoin miners. I really don't think we saw virtually no consolidation. Really, the entire run, we are through the run of Bitcoin miners. Right? That doesn't mean Bitcoin mining has ceased to exist. But most of the companies on this list are either hybrid or out of Bitcoin mining altogether already. There will be some Bitcoin miners that go on. There will be some people that start growing their fleet again. BitDeer continues to grow its fleet because they make their own machines. But really, nobody else is growing their fleet, and most of these companies are shrinking it or have eliminated it. The global hash rate is now sideways for over 1 full year. Never happened before. So, for those of you who think that we haven't had a crypto winter, this has been in some ways more brutal than previous ones. Not in drawback from a dollar standpoint of what Bitcoin did, but the Bitcoin miners made it through the previous crypto winter for the most part. This time around, now they were given a better alternative this time around, but most of them chose that alternative and they ran for the hills. So I do think they're better investments now as a result. But to the original point, I actually think Keel could start getting, Riot made an offer to buy Keel for $2.30 a share. That was just silly. Was it $2.30, $2.80? I mean, that was like I said, there was never a chance that was going to happen. There's no way, because remember, you got to get the shareholders to say yes to that. There was no way the Bitcoin shareholders were going to say yes to a deal where they basically got shafted. So it wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. It was subsequent to that, it's hit over $6 several times. It's in the threes right now. But here's the thing. As a power company, if another neocloud or data center company that knows what they're doing, that knows how to build data centers, that has the sales infrastructure to go get agreements, if they have agreements they can't fulfill, this is energy that's going to be ready and waiting. I would see somebody making a $6 a share offer or an $8 a share offer to buy Keel. Now I do think you're going to get maybe some Keel shareholders to go, you know what, for $8? Okay. We'll call it.
What percentage of power are they using right now, Tom?
I mean, they've got over a gigawatt of power under their control. I think somewhere between 1.2 and 1.8 in their immediate pipeline or owned. A lot of it's not operational yet. But again, for a company like, let's just use IREN for an example. These guys build data centers for a living. They will run circles around Keel's ability to build a data center. So, if they've got contracts that they can't fulfill and they need to grow, right? They're looking to grow. They want to get to 5. They've got a partnership agreement. Now, it's a non-monetary agreement with NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA is a customer of IREN's, but they also have an agreement to build out 5 gigawatts of data centers together. So they're looking for power agreements and space to expand. Which is why I say IREN's looking to have 1.2 gigawatts of operational data centers generating revenue by December of 2027. So they're no longer going to be in a distant third place to CoreWeave and Nibius. They'll be peers. So just bear in mind, those guys are 3 to 3.5 times the market cap right now. Now, there's a lot of build out. There's some debt that'll come into play. I think IREN has established a methodology that I think works very well financially. I like their balance sheet better than either of those other companies. Although, like I said, I don't have a problem with Nibius's balance sheet at all. But I think those are interesting. And to me, my highest conviction on this board is IREN. It just is. It's also my biggest position on my portfolio. So those two things align.
Interesting, Tom.
That's one. What's next? Let me look at my list.
Oh, you still have CleanSpark ahead of it, dear.
This was made. I made this last night.
Okay.
So you'll see this was as of yesterday, August 20th, because I can only do so much in the 40 minutes from the time the market closes until the time our stream starts. So I do a lot of prep in the days prior to that. I waited as long as I could to make this chart.
Coach, Tom is a big ETH fan. Maybe we can get him to talk about it because your little thing had to gone nuts.
You want to talk ETH?
Yeah, because your little, what was the stock ticker?
I'll tell you right now, because that was my best performer on the week, and it wasn't close. So let's go through Ethereum. Let's pull up the chart.
Your little doohickey. I was thinking about you as that thing went nuts, because I think like ETH is what popped first in this little game.
So here's Ethereum. We'll start there, and then I'll get to BMNR is the stock, but I actually own BMNU, which is the 2x leverage ETF of BMNR, and I'm going to show you what happened there to that one this week. I mean, look at the underlying asset. And BMNR is that's Tom Lee's company. Their sole purpose in life is to buy Ethereum, hold it in treasury, monetize it in every way they can, including staking it. They want 5% of the world's Ethereum. They have just under 6 million Ethereum right now. They're at like 4.8% of the world's supply. So they're almost at the finish line of being the company they want to be. This company, to me, was the easiest buy I've done, I don't know, maybe ever. It was trading at like 0.8 something MNAV. So there was a massive discount just to the assets it held, which was Ethereum. Ethereum was at, cycle lows. Everything about this screamed monumental upside. And I think it's still early, even after you see the run that I'm going to show you that it took. But look at what Ethereum did in this short window of time. Ethereum's up 35% this week. That's not a little move. And again, it did the same thing. It just blew through lines of resistance this line of resistance, look at all these here. This whole, right, it was like, it didn't care about, sorry, get that off the screen. It did not care about any of this. It just blew right through that. It spent one day It bumped into this for one day, and the next day it had a gigantic green candle. So it's past all of that resistance. The next thing's at 2,900, and I expect it to hit this. That's my personal opinion. Again, this is wildly overbought. This is over 88 on the daily RSI. But again, you know, if you go 2 days earlier, it was 82. If you had sold at 82, which is wildly overbought, right? That's 70 is considered overbought. Now, for those of you who watch the channel and who are subscribers, or certainly the members, you know that for me, in the crypto universe, I don't consider 70 overbought. I consider 80 overbought. Because when these things run, it's regular procedure for them to hit 80 when they run. So 70 is normal resistance. When something's running, 80 isn't a problem. I've seen them at 90 or 95, even on the one day. So these can keep running like this one did, right? If you look, this went 82, 84, all right, 88 and a half. And I don't know if it's done, right? Now, it hasn't done. If you go back, you got to go back to July of 2025. It got to 85. So that's July of 2025. I mean, it's August of 2026. So it was over a year that it did not get over 70. And now it's at 88. So that's why I'm saying I do think this time is different. This is a breakout. Like, this is the definition. To me, this is the definition of a breakout. Dan, thanks for the super chat. Price target for Bitcoin by June of 2027. I mean, for me, I'm still thinking by June of 2027. I really think if I'm going to be conservative, and I'm trying to be reasonably conservative, I mean, I think, to me, if it doesn't get to 150 by then, to me, it will have underperformed. I won't be shocked if it gets higher than that. Obviously, I won't be shocked if it gets lower than that. We know, like, timing is very difficult in this game. So, but I would think between now and then, there's several benchmarks that are going to occur. I think we get back to we've never been to 150, but we get back to all-time highs and we take them out, in my opinion, by June of 2027. What do you think, George? Is that aggressive? Too aggressive?
When is the next halving?
2028.
Is it like April, or is it going to be around the same month, or no? I will look it up. I mean, it's not an exact date because it depends on how the actual blocks get solved, but they should know within an extremely tight window. Well, no one's talking about quantum. And this has gone out the window? By the way, we were talking about quantum, and they said the amount of money it's going to take to make quantum, that the average person isn't going to be able to afford it, to do it. By the way, it is April. It is going to be April 2028.
Yes, I was just looking up the same thing. Thank you. So, yeah, so we got some time. So we'll still have...
it's going to be between that and September, October will probably be the high in those 3 or 4 months.
And we had...
But Tom, when it goes over 100 this time, I don't think it comes back.
You're saying next time, whatever the journey is to get there, next time we go over 100, it's permanent.
Well, because if it doesn't, then it's broken.
I agree.
Because the amount of energy it's going to cost to mine a coin after the next halving.
If it doesn't get to seriously higher numbers by the next halving, then the Bitcoin network is going to have to... It's gone sideways for 13 months. It's going to have to go down. And we have not experienced... So that will mean, in your words, Bitcoin's broken. That's never happened before. So that would be fundamentally different than anything that's ever happened since the inception of Bitcoin. So yes, it would be, I think that qualifies as broken.
Right.
So, and I think that number is like anywhere from 125 at a absolute desperate minimum to 150, 175.
So would you go long on Bitcoin right now?
If I had no Bitcoin, I would be dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I wouldn't jump today after 3-day monster run, but I would start dollar cost averaging in, and then, you know, I think there's a really good chance we get some type of pullback. This was a historic run. I'm going to do that chart next. So, you know, maybe you'll get a little bit of a better buying opportunity a week from now. But again, I think we still haven't hit that 82,000 mark where most traders will consider the bull market as having begun. So I'm going to do one more thing, and then I'm going to get to an indicator that I think is telling us actually this run, this 3 days started the bull market, in my opinion. And Dan, thank you again for the super chat. Much appreciated. Do you think we get to 150K this year? I do not think we get to 150K this year. I think we can. I think I think we've bottomed. I think we're moving into a bull market. I think that between now and the election in the United States, I don't think we're going to have runaway price action in Bitcoin. So I think some of what happens is, and this is especially true in the housing market, life just gets put on hold. In an election year, it's worse in a presidential. This is a midterm election. For those of you not in the United States, that may not be very meaningful to you. But in the months running up to these elections, things tend to start to go a little sideways. Now, Bitcoin's a very small, the entire crypto universe, George was just saying, is only $2.5 billion, trillion dollars. So, you know, there's individual companies bigger than that. So we could be an outlier and we could run, but I think that would be an aggressive, that's beyond my expectation. I would be thrilled, obviously, but 150 by December 31st is beyond my expectation. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't fall out of my chair. I mean, again, we see when this thing goes, it goes. So it's just hard to know what is that day. Bitcoin's pumping. Hold on. Let me get back to. Wow. So I'm going to zoom in and put after hours into the spotlight here. So that is where we were when the equity markets closed in the US today. So just in after hours, we're up 2%. We haven't quite gotten to a retest here. So, yeah, I mean, here we go. We're still moving. Again, this is despite the fact. Oh, I gotta go. I gotta get. So on the 1 day, this looks like this. So you can see, I mean, look at this move. This was Monday. We're up 25%. Now, I think, what did we say? Ethereum was up 35%. And I will get back to Bitminer, but yes, Bitcoin continues to run after hours. If we can take out 80, I mean, who knows? I think the dream case scenario, the best case scenario that I do not expect to happen at all, would be to take out 80 over the weekend and then retest 80,000 as support. That's a too good to be true scenario in my opinion. But it's not impossible. I'm going to end this poll. Was the bottom of the previous crypto winter in June or in November, December? So 70% of you are going with the traditional definition. I mean, in point of fact, Bitcoin was at a lower number in November and December than it was in June. So 70% think it was during the FTX time. 30% think in June. I think it was in June. And the only reason I'm revisiting that is not to relitigate the past. It's to try to understand what's going on in this cycle. Because if you look, when this giant, we called this out on the channel. This is a very strong bullish divergence on the 1-day time frame, but also, I'll find the chart, also on the 1-week time frame. 1-day time frames, all of this type of price action, right? You could expect a couple of months of good, and this was really even ran up and went sideways. So even all of this, you know, I think is a function of this 1 day. The 1 week, let me switch charts. Here's the 1 week. So at the same time as we had a bullish divergence on the 1-day time frame, we had one on the 1 week time frame. Now the 1 week time frame tends to indicate moves that might be 6 months, a year. So I thought this was extreme. This was one of the indications to me that perhaps this was one of the signals that said this was the bottom. And again, no one thing says that, and you never know because the next unknown can introduce itself. But this strong bullish divergence on the 1 week time frame, it's just technically very, very bullish. And now we're starting to see, you know, look at this week, right? We closed above. We had multiple weeks of confirmation, basically consolidating sideways, and then a massive move up. We've now taken. Go ahead, George.
I'm sorry, but XRP is also doing this, and now it's up 43 cents.
After hours?
It just went up another
Hold on.
3.35 after hours.
I want to see. Maybe it'll show this on the other chart as well. I just want to see something. Yeah, I mean, everything's running. Everything's running. Crypto is back. And remember, so for those of you who are members, you know that Tuesday, while it's not what we necessarily talked about in the stream, the chat was basically full of Bitcoin's dead, crypto's dead, all these stocks are dead. That was like the theme.
I think it was George is a loser.
George's a loser, Tom's a loser. Yeah. Well, we hit all the bases. XRP's a loser. Right at that time, on the stream on Tuesday, we called out XRP just went under $1 and it's struggling to hold $1, which was an unbelievably strong line of support. So if I go, I may have this open somewhere. If I don't, I'll just, hold on, I don't want to get rid of that one. Let's switch to XRP. Hey now. XRP's up 43% this week. That's in real time right now. So that's a big move. So Bitcoin was a phenomenal move. Ethereum was better. XRP was better than that. And you can see it was fighting this $1 for days. And it won. So that's $1 to $1.43 in 3 days. These are moves. These are historic moves. So I will tell everybody, I'm invested in 4 cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, which I own through the BlackRock ETF. So that's just straight Bitcoin. All the rest, XRP, I own XXRP, which is a 2x leverage on XRP. Now, for those of you who haven't noticed, we've been in, particularly the altcoins, we've been in a full-blown crypto winter. So I have been getting beat up on these, but I stopped about 3 weeks ago. But the last 3 or 4 months, I managed to at least double the number of shares I had in all of these. So it was a lot of pain over that crypto winter, but I came out of it with double the size or more of the positions. So my XXRP is my double XRP. My SOLT is my double Solana. And Ethereum, I'm playing 2 ways. I don't even think one of them's on here. It's E. Let's add it. I thought I added that. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. I got to get into funds. So the main way I'm playing Ethereum is through Bitminer or Bitmine Immersion Technologies. But again, I'm doing the double leverage thing, the BMNU. So for me, other than Bitcoin, I'm playing straight up, and that's my biggest position. All of these put together are about equal to my Bitcoin position because that's my biggest conviction. But these are nice plays. And if I go and look at my BMNU, so if you look at BMNR, like this last Friday, we were still testing this line of support. We're up almost 30% this week. But have this, I'll just go right here. Kind of got to stretch this out to understand what it is. This is BMNU. So 2 things. This is this week. 51%. Actually, now after hours, we're here. That's 61%. I'm up on this investment this week. And from the bottom, which was in June, and that's kind of where I keep getting back to. I think June was the bottom. I just do. Maybe I'm wrong. Since June, I'm up 194% on this position.
Did you go heavy or no?
I bought all the way. Yeah, I stopped buying like a month ago, but I bought heavy. I more than doubled this position in this pullback right here, and particularly, during this area. So
where do you see
I took my lumps. I mean, look, I started buying this back here.
Right.
That was at $51. We're at $17. So I had a lot of dollar cost, but I bought a heck of a lot more shares here, right? It's a lot easier to buy shares for $6, then 50. Pretty depressing. Actually, the best thing that I did, and this did a 1 to 10 reverse stock split. And if you look at the absolute bottom, I made my biggest purchase, and I said, I don't know if it was a members only or a regular stream. On this day, it says the low is $6.10, but that's actually on that day, that was before the split, that was 61 cents. I made a big purchase at 67 cents.
Oh, wow.
So that's $6.70, and we're now at $17 a few months later. So this period really helped. And I bought, I don't know when a month ago was, somewhere in here, somewhere near the end of July, I stopped buying. So, I could have done a little bit more, but I felt like I've more than doubled my position. Let's just see where it goes from here. And so far.
So what happens when they come back, like in another week or two or whenever, Congress, and they don't pass the Clarity Act? Because that caused a little rumble.
I think that my personal opinion, I'll end this poll and we'll do a new poll. I think the market has priced in that the Clarity Act is not happening.
Okay.
So I think that we're going to get, if it happens to pass between now and the end of the year, in my opinion, we're going to get a bump on that, because there's been exactly zero indication that act is going to pass before the elections. And I think if we took a poll, well, let's not think. We actually can take a poll. Well, the Clarity Act passed before the elections in November, so you guys let us know what you think. But this is where, so again, with XRP, XRP was brutal pain. But in hindsight, look at how long I had to buy this thing for nothing. And just in the last 4 days.
So it almost seems like you're saying if there's blood in the streets, time to buy. Sorry.
Right. It's the same lesson we learn every single time. This is up 83% in 4 days. That's where my XRP position is. Now, as you can see, once again, I started buying. This is another one that I switched from XRP to XXRP somewhere back here. So I'm a long way from my original purchases, but with this dollar cost averaging in, I'm basically break even. After 4 days. 4 days ago, I was down. I was getting wrecked on this. So we'll see what the next 4 days brings. But that's 83% in 4 days. So when we keep talking about, like, I'm not going to try to time the bottom, I have no idea. I'm guessing, was that the bottom? Was that the bottom? Was this the bottom? I don't know. I bought all of those times, though. And you know what? Maybe it goes and does this. If we take this line out, I'll buy more down here and down here and down here. I don't think that's going to happen. But I could be wrong. But these are vicious moves. Even Solana. Like, see, this looks like nothing. You go, oh, look at this. This is nothing. And when you compare it to where Solana was, it is nothing. This was at almost $600. This is the 2X Solana ETF. Get rid of that. But if you zoom in, this is another one. It's not quite as good as the last one, but you know what? In 4 days, I'm up 42%. So I look at June and I go 1, 2. Whether it's Solana, whether it's Ethereum, June. Whether it's XRP, June. I just think there's an awful lot of evidence that that was the bottom. And now I'm going to get to the real putting this into perspective. I'm going to look at just Bitcoin first, and then I'm going to talk about the other ones, because I think the crypto winter's over. Let me get to the graphic. Bitcoin's largest 3-day gains. This is the 10 largest 3-day gains since Bitcoin was invented. This is not by percentage. So you could make another chart that would have a different 10 days. This is by dollar value. And remember, we're $1,000 above my guess at where we were going to close, because again, I had to make this in the middle of the day and the market wasn't closed and the daily candle doesn't happen until later. So it's actually going to be much more than this, it looks like. The last 3 days, we were up $12,675, and you can add $1,000 to that because we're actually $1,000 above that right now. That is the best 3 days in the history of Bitcoin. Not this year, not this cycle. This isn't a good 3 days. It's the best 3 days. Number 2 and 3 are actually the same 4-day period. You can just break it up 2 different ways and they both make the list. So really, in this 4-day period, there was a $12,000 move up. Then you go to February of 2024, there was a $10,000 move up. November of 2024, 10,000. That's it. Then you're under 10,000. And all of those were 2025, 25, 25, 25, 26. This 3 days is the biggest dollar move Bitcoin's ever had to the upside. So it's not hyperbole to say like this was an event. This was not just a pump. This was literally unprecedented. Now, it's not such an outlier that it's like, we've never seen anything that even slightly resembles this, but being number 1 on the list is meaningful. So I think it's...
So, Tom, did you look at any of the other scenarios like this, maybe in the last one, 24, like November? What happened right after that? How long did the bull run continue in the other periods of these 10?
So this was a strong one. This was November of 2024. You want to go? Shall we take a look?
Yeah, I mean, this to me is really interesting because this because history always kind of repeats itself, even though October 5th is supposed to be the low.
Oh, what kind of mess do we have here? Hold on. Actually, you know what? This chart's cleaner. Let's go back and look, but I'm going to get to the 1 day. And that was November of 2024.
Yeah.
Should jump out at us since it was So this is November of 2024. So that was probably this 1, 2, 3, 4 days right here. So at the end of that, so we won't count those. After this, to the peak was another 23% to the upside.
At what period of time?
And that was 36 days.
Okay.
36 days, 23%. And then we pulled back, but that was not the peak. You know, we were still structurally moving up. Then we did a retest. So like I said, you know, a retest is not impossible. Look, we exactly retested this line right here. And similarly, you know, in that 4 days, we blew right through that line of resistance. Went up, double topped, retested it. That could happen again. But then we went up again.
Triple top.
Because this was, yeah, that's actually this October was the top. So from if you would have bought on that day, to the absolute top was another 43%. Now, we were at the end of the bull market in that cycle. That is not where we are right now. I think we're at the beginning of the bull market of the next cycle. I think a lot of people will disagree with me on that, and we haven't proven it yet. But I want to go to this because there is an indicator that changed today. And historically speaking, this has been absolutely outstanding at predicting the end of the bear market, crypto winter, and the beginning of the bull market. So I'm going to look at that one right now. This is the super trend indicator on the 3-day time frame. This literally flipped after flipping bearish. This flipped bearish on October 16th, a few days after the peak. So this ran, you know, if you think it hasn't been a while, it's been 308 days that this indicator's been bearish, saying you are in a bear market. Today, this tiny little dot that you might not even be able to see down here, that's green. If you go back historically, like when we turned green, this is back in April of 2020, up 892%. Now we had, if you guys remember, the 2021, we had an anomaly. And this could happen, and this speaks to the volatility. We did have, remember we got to 64,000, then we got to 69,000? Well, in the middle, we went down to 29,000. So from the day this turned, we did have 66 days in the middle where this indicator went red. And in that time, we pulled back 53%. However, then it went green. And in that time, which was really here, we went up 83%. A similar thing happened here. We had a minor disruption. But once this went green in January of 2023, that was the beginning of the bull market. The first run was a 96% run up. And then we do seem to have in the middle 66 days again, identical. That's a coincidence. But with a few breaks, this was a 658% move to the upside. Now, again, we did have brief breaks in this. But otherwise, this indicator was green. And you really don't find an example of this going green for a day or 3 days or 60 days or 30 days and then reversing and just continuing red. So this is the time where I say no indicator is perfect. Just because this has nailed it every time does not mean it's going to nail it this time. Maybe, right? Every winning streak comes to an end. But of all the indicators that I look at, this is the one I've been waiting for. I was comfortable saying the bottom was in. This is what I was looking for to say the bull market has started. Now, I do think I'm early. It would be nice to see 2 3-day candles close in the green. That would be my real benchmark. If we get 2 3-day candles that close in the green on this super trend indicator on the 3-day time frame, I'm going to feel really, I will be investing accordingly. To me, that's my last piece of confirmation. A lot of people are going to look for different things. We're overbought, right? Where this is on the 3-day time frame, we're overbought. You know, so there's some indicators that we may pull back. But guess what? We blew through this. If you see where the red ends, it ends at 70, call it 71,000. We're at 78,500. So we can have some red candles and still be green on this indicator. And this is to me, this is this, which is January of 2023. After the dust settled from the FTX situation, we went green on this. Again, this is one thing. But here's the interesting thing about this one thing. Here's Bitcoin, XRP. Went green today. Solana went green today. Ethereum. This is actually the second 3-day candle that Ethereum is in the green on this indicator. So that's 4 cryptocurrencies that just switched on the 3-day super trend from bearish to bullish. Now, again, we'll see, right? A little early to call it, but I think we're going to look back. This is some fundamental stuff that's gone on. This 3-day window for Bitcoin was the biggest 3-day move up in history. We went from 308 days of being bearish on the super trend indicator. So it's not like this is miscellaneous and this is a wishy-washy indicator. We were red for 308 days. I know a lot of you think that's not long enough. That's not the end of the crypto winter. I understand. I'm just looking at the chart. This is every cryptocurrency. Well, that's not fair. This is the 4 major cryptocurrencies. Here, we can look for fun. I got Sui on the list. Oh, green. Sui went green. Chainlink. Chainlink's actually now on its 4th candle, green. So is the crypto winter over, at least for the altcoins? Are we willing to say that? Will the Clarity Act pass before the elections in November? I'm calling that 50-50. So once again, they've got us guessing. Not to bias your answer, the question is the crypto winter over for altcoins? The super trend indicator on the 6 coins that we just looked at all went bullish. So that's only one piece of evidence. But to me, it's a fairly compelling piece of evidence. And you can see... Go ahead, George.
We got a lot of time before people start to make money, though. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was brutal, Tom.
Depending on when you bought, that's why, you know, you and I talked earlier, and we were talking about how, like, you're not late right now. If I go back to Bitcoin, this was a historic move. This is a massive green move to the upside. But you're not late. Like I said, if you watch most people, they're going to go up to this area right here. And they're going to say until we close above. Hold on, I'm going to put a line on it. Until we close above this and confirm it. The true traders will not consider that we're in a bull market yet. That's the line. So if you want to know what the rest of the world's looking for, consensus is two things. One, we gotta go above this line and then have it hold as support. And the second thing they're looking for is they think that we still have months to go and some lower low before it's the end of the crypto winter. That's consensus. But like we saw, it's not unanimous, even as we've done every vote. The one was a third. The last one was 50-50. I mean, we're in a spot where they got us right where they want us, guessing. Here, let me find this one. No. Ha! Bitcoin tops 77,000 as best week since 2023. Pulls altcoins along for the ride. 2023 was the beginning of the last bull market. This is the best week since 2023. So this wasn't just a dead cat bounce, a good week, a better than average week. The last time we had a week this good was March of 2023. That's 3.5 years ago. So I feel like this isn't just another week, right? And a part of this gets a little bit, I know, one of the things they do, if we go back to this chart, look at all our stocks, red. So you can get buried in this sea of red and not really pay attention to the fact that structurally, there's an awful lot of things pointing to the fact that we just had a breakout. I mean, the first one is the obvious look at a one-day chart where, we've had a huge breakout. I think we just pulled back that 1,000 that we got. Well, it looks like we just gave back. Why do they say different numbers? 70. I'm going to go with this one. This is Coinbase, so we did not give that back. I take it back. The other chart must be frozen. So we're still at around 78,400. And remember, we were at 62,000 last Friday. We're at 78,000 now. My machine isn't cooperating with me. All right, so I'll just go through some of these. Ken Griffin says Citadel. Remember, Citadel is the beneficiary of the Situational Awareness Fund falling to pieces. They got to buy this at a deep discount. Citadel has unwound more than 80% of risk tied to situational awareness portfolio. That's kind of a non-specific statement. Doesn't say they've sold 80% of the shares. It says they've unwound more than 80% of the risk. Not 100% sure how to interpret that, but what I would say is it probably means they've gotten out of. Remember, one of the things with situational awareness and why we talk about it so much is the third biggest holding in that portfolio was IREN. He also held CleanSpark. He also held, at the time, Bitfarms, now Keel. He also held Nebius, Applied Digital. I mean, half of his holdings was this list of stocks that we follow. So it was significant that, you know, those were a part of the meltdown that we had. Now, today's meltdown, I don't know. I can't tell you what today's meltdown was about. Profit taking, FUD, distraction. I don't know why Riot would be down 5.5% today. Right? Bitcoin, most of its revenue comes from mining Bitcoin. It also holds a bunch of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin went ballistic today, but Riot was down 5.5%. CleanSpark, same thing. So I don't know what this price action was about. You'll see Marathon was actually green today, up almost 0.99, up 1%, which is significant because I want to go to that chart. This is why I'm waiting. A lot of you will look at this and go, you're greedy, just get rid of it. And, you know, there's some validity to that. I've been watching this unfold for a long time. I mean, not that long, since June 22nd. So that's 59 days, almost 2 months. But this is a really good pattern. This is a descending line of resistance. There were two giant green candles. You could draw another line. We were getting ready to retest the bottom of this. Instead, when Bitcoin turned, Marathon turned with it. It had a huge green day. And then it broke out of this candle. Or this pattern. So that was yesterday, Thursday. Right? It clearly broke out, way out of this pattern. Today, although the candle looks red because it closed lower than it opened, it gapped open. It was up 1% today. So this is actually a pretty strong confirmation. This was a breakout. We got 1 day of confirmation confirming it. And really the price target for this, there's a line of resistance just under $14. And then, you know, this could run to $16. I think that's a very reasonable, very short-term price target. I will not wait to that. I don't know which day it was, but I sold this I sold 20% of my Marathon. I got out of the first 20% at $14.30. It may sound arbitrary and or greedy, but I'd like to sell the rest at that price. And I think with this chart, I think it's highly likely we're at 53 on the daily RSI. So the daily RSI is reset. It's just above neutral. Yesterday, we had a bullish crossover on the MACD. Everything about this technical situation says that the algorithms are going to trade this up to some number. I don't know where it's going to bump into some resistance, but that's technically what's going to go on. So if Bitcoin crashes, you know, that'll change the algorithms. If Bitcoin runs like the wind, that will help. If Marathon has new specific information, then that would change things. But otherwise, the tendency is going to be for this to run. These two gigantic moves up to hold on this day, on a day when, other than BitDeer, everything else got wiped out. Marathon was up. So we'll see. That's my goal. That's my challenge to myself. I'm hoping to get out of Marathon at $14.30. I might start selling before.
Will you make money or break even or?
Man, if I make money, it's negligible. I think I'm in. I think I will. I think I'm in the high 12s or something for Marathon. But to me, that's not even the point at this point. I on the day I sold 20%, I strongly considered selling 100%. I didn't do it, and I know you're not supposed to kick yourself. Hindsight's 2020. And Sour Melon Gaming said you're getting a little greedy, Tommy. I can't argue with that. It would be just as probably smarter to sell it right now. But I'm going to roll the dice. I think this setup is ready and waiting for me. So I'm going to see if it plays out. If it doesn't, I'll sell it where I sell it.
I mean, you also feel, do you think it might even be premature to sell it then if the bull runs on? Because don't they still have 43,000 or so Bitcoin?
Funny you should mention. I just pulled up a chart. I want to show you what's happened to these hodlers. Oh. So I made a little chart here. I went back to March 30 for end of the first quarter 2025, about a year and a half ago. And I compared that for really the only companies that hodl. Back then it was Marathon, CleanSpark, Riot, and HUT. Now ABTC hodls. So what's happened to Marathon? They were the number 2 publicly traded company in the world as far as number of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Obviously, Microstrategy, now Strategy is 10-fold, 20-fold this now. They had 47,000 Bitcoin, and they were number 2. Well, they've slipped from number 2 to number 4, and they've gone from 47,000 Bitcoin to 35,000 Bitcoin. So they lost 2 in the rankings. They're down 12,000 Bitcoin, and you can see the chart here. This was last year. This is this year. They've moved backwards. CleanSpark had 11,800. They actually now have just under 14,000, but they moved from 5th place to 10th place, even though they've added 2,000. So what this tells me is there's 2 trends. Most of the rest of these you're going to see, a lot of the big hodlers from Bitcoin miners, and particularly the privately held ones, the on-chain data shows the companies mining Bitcoin are now, over the last year, selling it instead of holding it. CleanSpark's an exception. It did go up by a couple of thousand. HUT, or ABTC, is an exception. HUT is up 14 Bitcoin. They've had approximately 10,000 Bitcoin for like 5 years now. They're not buying any. They're not selling any. I don't know why they changed by 14 in that period of time. Who knows? Riot went from 3rd overall. So Marathon was the 2nd biggest. Riot with 19,000 was the 3rd biggest hodler of Bitcoin of every publicly traded company in the world. Publicly traded. They got rid of 7,800. They're now 13th. HUT 8 with the same exact 10,000, right? Their hodl didn't change. They went from 7th to 14th. So that's the most telling one of all. With the same amount of Bitcoin, these guys went from 7th place to 14th place. There are a lot more companies. While the Bitcoin miners might be selling, corporations are now taking Bitcoin onto their balance sheet. Now, it's not the Mag 7. It's not even really the S&P 500 yet. So we're still super early in this adoption. Super early. But you can see it has begun. This used to just be a list of basically MicroStrategy and a bunch of Bitcoin miners. That's not the case anymore. So I think this is something I will continue to keep my eye on. This is this is a piece of adoption that I think, excuse me, whether it's 2 years from now, 5 years from now, we're going to look and go, wow. You know, Riot's now the 300th biggest company with Bitcoin on their balance sheet because you will have that much more adoption. We've advanced greatly, and it's still very early days. Here, CleanSpark increased the amount of Bitcoin they had by 2,000, and they dropped from 5 to 10. This shows you a lot of people jumped into this game. But again, you know, there's still 10. I think you're going to see them fall to 20 and then 50 and then 100. Not because they sell all their Bitcoin, because over time adoption is yet to happen. Another exactly 50-50, George. Is the crypto winner over for altcoins? 50-50. Have they got us right where they want us? It's incredible. I have a list of... Here, somebody was asking which ones are 1 through 3. So here's the current list. Microstrategy, 528,000 Bitcoin. This was at 2025. Sorry, let me get to the because I'm like, that number's not right. That's wrong. That was 2025. This is now. So this is according to BitcoinTreasuries.net. Strategy, number 1, 840,000 Bitcoin. And they give the MNAV for some of these that are just straight up treasury companies, Bitcoin treasury companies. So 0.99. I think that's a little off. If I go take a look, 1.00. So for those of you who follow the channel, you'll know I have long said, I think that for strategy, one of the things that represents a floor for their stock is an MNAV of 1. Could it get to 0.99 or 0.98? It could get anywhere, but I think that if it does, it will be for a very brief period of time. I think in general, a 1 MNAV is a very good indicator that that's, you know, treading along the bottom. That doesn't mean it can't go lower. If Bitcoin goes lower, then strategy could go lower. Strategy had a breakout, by the way, in the last 2 days. They had a massive breakout of a line of resistance. So if
Well, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All they do is hold Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went ballistic. So, okay, so number 2 is 21 Capital. Somebody we know is involved in that. I'm just going to look real quick. Controlling shareholder. Your buddies. Tether.
Oh, they are my buddies.
So that's chump change for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing.
Metaplanet. So you can see, I mean, 21 Capital is trading at a 0.77 MNAV. Unless there's some nightmare happening with debt imminently coming due, I have not looked at their balance sheet. But unless something is like structurally imminently wrong with them, this is just underpriced. This is arbitrage. This is the exact scenario of arbitrage. This should not be below 1.0. A lot of people might argue it should not be above 1.0.
What's the ticker?
XXI.
Where's it traded? Is it local? Is it in the United States?
This says U.S. U.S. 21 Capital, XXI. I know this company only from this list. I've never done a deep dive on them. They are a Bitcoin treasury company. I have no idea what their balance sheet looks like. Income statement doesn't matter. This is a balance sheet situation. Number 3, Metaplanet has now passed Marathon. Number 4, Marathon. Number 5, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company. And that's also somebody we know. I just don't want to say it before I find out. It's misunderstanding what I'm asking. So I don't know that I know any of these people. Dr. Adam Back is the CEO and founder of Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company.
Hey, the doc's in the house.
Doctor. Then you got Bullish, Strive, SpaceX went public. They've got almost 19,000 Bitcoin. Coinbase. Now, Coinbase, obviously, custodies vastly more Bitcoin than this. This 17,000 is their Bitcoin. Then you got CleanSpark. Then you got Trump Media. Then you got Tesla. Then you got Riot, Hut 8, Block. And then you got ABTC. George, your ABTC at number 16, 8,300. So some names we know, some names I'm not that familiar with. But that's the list. All right, what else is going on? Did that. Oh, I should have never gone here. Should I move on? U.S. military says it aided passage of 660 million barrels of oil through the Strait of Hormuz since May. Some of the points here. And I'm going through this because the price of oil is one of the things that just does dictate how the market is moving. And one of the big inflation fears is that the price of oil is going to spiral. I don't think that's true, but again, we can vote on it. It's probably going to be a 50-50, or everyone's going to disagree with me. I did an extremely deep dive on this situation. And, it's still only my judgment, but I just don't think that oil is going to go up materially from here other than short-term spikes. I'll run a poll while we talk about this.
It's just this isn't going to end before November, by the way, Tom.
It doesn't look like it. If I was a predictor in the prediction market, I would guess that this will not end by the elections.
What would be the qualification? You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's real hard to
How do you
specify.
Yeah, because
what does it mean? End?
Because
that's a great point.
It's just, will Josh Allen play differently because now he's a dad.
He can play even better.
No, he isn't.
Go Bills. We're getting ready for the NFL season. Okay, so
we probably, and before we close, we gotta kind of let everybody know what we're going to be doing, so they won't scream at us. Why are you talking about this?
Is oil going over 120,000? 100, not 120,000. Is it going over $120 a barrel? Not 120,000. Sorry, guys. Is oil going over $120 a barrel this year? That would be a spike in oil.
Yes.
Which we've had on numerous occasions over the several decades. So this target suggests that at least 160 million barrels, or more than 7 million barrels per day, transited the strait over the past 3 weeks, based on the military's past statements. Now, I will tell you, there's a few agencies that track this. They're coming in. The U.S. government is actually claiming 9 million are crossing per day. There's some independent agencies that are saying, no, it's more like 7 million. So I don't know which one it is. The key point is both of those numbers are two things. Number one, they're much less than the 20 million that was business as usual. So, really for this to get fixed, you would think we got to get back to 20 million. Now, some other things structurally have made up some of the difference, and I think going forward, that is going to remain the case. I don't think there's going to be a demand for 20 million barrels of oil. No, I don't. I know there's not going to be a demand for 20 million barrels of oil out of the strait a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. There will be. I think ultimately you're going to see almost no oil. However, that doesn't solve our problem this month, next month, 6 months from now, 10 months from now. So we got to get back to some business as usual. And even if you believe the 7 million number, we're still not at business as usual. But even independent agencies that are not affiliated with any government are saying, their satellite monitoring is saying they think about 7 million barrels is crossing per day. So it's not zero. It's not at a standstill, but it's at some number dramatically less than we want it to be, or that really we need it to be. So the question is, to your point, George, when does this end? Because until this comes to some resolution, maybe that number's 7 million. Maybe it's 9. Maybe it gets to 11. We needed to get to 15. If it got back to 15 million, I think we'd be fine. But there is a real issue at, 7 million barrels a day, not just for now, but for the next year. We can't do that for the next year. That will be negative situation. Now, I will say, I shouldn't even say, should we just leave it there?
Yes.
Because I did a lot of research on this, but I don't want to share any of it. I will tell you guys, I'll just leave it at this. If you guys want to know about the oil situation, because I know a lot of people are scared, and this is a real question. It's a real question mark. I would look into not just the headlines. I would look into how much is actually in the U.S. reserve. What's the most amount of oil?
We did this a few months ago, Tom.
What's the most amount of oil we've ever used in the worst crisis we've ever had in the history of the country out of our oil reserve? How many barrels of oil inventory are there in the United States held by private companies? And how many barrels a day do we produce in the United States versus how many barrels we use? If you look at all of those data points, and I'm not going to tell you any of them because, number one, half the people will be mad whether I'm right or wrong either way. So I'll just say that's the information you need to know. So you can go research it and find it for yourself. And you can answer the question for yourself, because instead of staying up at night worrying about oil, Just go take a look. In an hour, you'll know the answer to this question.
Tom, Tabby, before I forget, she said, do you think Ben bought shares at $3.33 as a sign of 3 deals?
I think that it's a very meaningful thing.
Oh, you do?
I don't think it's necessarily a sign of 3 deals.
Right.
But he spent, and I don't know his personal finances, but Ben is brand new as the CEO to this company. He's a younger dude. In my personal opinion, he's an exceptionally intelligent person. He has proven operationally he's outstanding. However, his job is CEO right now. So he's got some other responsibilities that he needs to prove that he can do. So time is going to tell. But I will say, this is not a 60-year-old person, 30 years into moving from one CEO job to the next that has tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So going out and buying $300,000 or $400,000 worth of stock, is
It's a big deal, yeah.
Right. For him, it's actually meaningful. And yeah, so I took that as a signal of real money, consequential money for him. And I would take that he personally, whether it turns out this way or not, time will tell. But I think he personally thinks they are on the verge of a deal. And I think that's my assumption, but I think that's true. And I think they are on the verge of multiple deals. But like everything in sales, you don't get every deal, right? It's always a numbers game. So they could be talking to 3 people. They could be talking to 10 people. I don't know. But they're probably getting close with a bunch, enough so that they feel like the first one's going to pull the trigger. And that's what they need. They need the first deal. I don't even know.
Everybody needs to pop that first deal.
Yeah, without the first deal, you're theoretically in this space. With the deal, that's money. Money talks. By the way, we're at $78,600 and something dollars. So this strong move to the upside, it's only been a little while, but very encouraging. And Alex is saying it's the lowest level of the SPR since 1982. So that is an absolute fact. So understand, that's true. I'm just saying, look beyond that at all the numbers and see what you think in the big picture, how the math works. That is a piece of the story. And it's correct. According to everything that I researched, that's correct. I just think that's only a part of the story.
Yeah, Keel doesn't have any Bitcoin on their balance sheets?
If they do, it's immaterial. They're out of the Bitcoin business. They were down to a couple of thousand Bitcoin. They don't put out a monthly operational report. Their amount of cryptocurrency in total on their balance sheet is small. At one point, Tom, they were hodlers. That was a long time ago.
Tom, did you ask Ben this one question? What exactly do you do here? I mean, come on.
Listen, it's...
Well, you don't understand. I service the GD customer. I told you I'm in customer support.
I'm a people person.
I'm a people person. Sorry.
So, listen, I own the stock. I think Ben's going to do good things there. I think financially, not on Ben's watch, but they have made a lot of mistakes. But I think that this is about as good a shape as they possibly could have. I could have possibly imagined them being in, given everything that's happened to them over the last 5 years. And I want to happen to them isn't even fair. They did a lot of it themselves.
My whole thing though is, no, seriously, what do they do? I mean, because you got an energy company. They own an energy company, Tom.
They do.
They should be minting money off of that.
They own an energy company. They just don't have any customers.
Again, goes back to my question.
What
exactly do you do here?
That's one of the most important parts about having selling energy, is having somebody buy it. I think they'll get customers. And if they sell it, not much of it, if any, is ready to turn on tomorrow. So, it's going to go in the backlog, but that counts. I do think they will execute. Ben executes. I do not expect him to fail at the build out. The question is, will they get the customers?
Well, here's what's going to happen. They're going to be a pass through. Somebody else is going to sign a deal and then do a deal with them. Like a Riot is going to sign something so big
that they need the capacity.
They need the capacity. I know Riot's probably not a good example, but
it probably won't be Riot. Yeah. But yes, your point is kind of like a CoreWeave, or who knows. There's an awful lot of capacity needed. These companies, I will tell you, I signed up every different computer, every desktop, every laptop. I log in a different way. So my ChatGPT at home is one account. My work one is under my, the business. If I go to my laptop, it doesn't recognize me. And so the point of the story is I went to I ran into today, it told me you've run out of free chat. You can sign up here. Yeah. So I said, all right, I'll pull the switcheroo. I'll just log in a new window under a different email address. And immediately I asked it one question. It said, thank you for using your one free question. You can sign up for plans as follows, blah, 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 blah. So they have shifted gears from all this freebie stuff. Now, for whatever reason, I do have some accounts that are older, and I just think there's buckets, and they may have decided, all right, these people have been with us a while. We think we can convert them. Brand new people, we just can't keep giving it away to everybody for free forever. We got to, because one of the things is Anthropic passed them in revenue, OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and Anthropic is Claude. And the market is looking closely at that. I think there's two big reasons. A lot of you that have used Claude will say, well, the reason is because Claude is better. However,
No. Claude changed, and Claude has changed dramatically, by the way.
So you're not the first person that has told me Claude's changed, and OpenAI has seen what Claude's doing, and they've adapted. So I think they're a lot closer than everybody thinks, but I do think what Anthropic, you think ChatGPT is better.
Oh my God. And you have to understand, I use them all.
Yeah, you use these all day, every day.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it is amazing to see. I don't know what they did. They gave it a dummy pill. So there was, remember how they were talking about AI and how every time they did an update, it was like a 12-1, and then it was like a 37-1, and it's supposed to be how many times you say. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't imagine that it went up at all this last update with Claude. Claude isn't. I mean, and I was
not a fan of the most recent update.
No, and I was told the reason why. The reason why was because it was so good that they were required by the government to dumb it down. And that's what is really going on. Same with ChatGPT.
OpenAI put out a memo whether you believe this or not, they put out a memo that they had to stop for 2 weeks because their latest model was getting out of the sandbox and they couldn't stop it. So
I believe that.
They had to
no
go
one likes
time
to stay
out.
in a sandbox.
I'm not a big fan of sand, so I agree. But that, I mean, obviously that's unacceptable.
Now what they've done is they've put limits on if you ask it any legal questions, if you ask it any medical questions, if it asks you any relationship questions, there are limits put on that to a hard stop, so that they're telling you to go back to the norm of what society believes, so to speak. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying go back to those norms. Like with medical advice, I used to say, give me non-traditional medical advice. I'm more of a, free-spirited, free-loving, you know what I mean? Just hippie type of person in thought, but not really, but because I hate pot. But it really it's changed. It's just not what it used to be. That's just the bottom line. And I think anybody that uses, AI would say that they agree.
And I see someone in the comments saying for trading, it's not that good. I will tell you, you're going to have to prove to me that these chatbots can trade, because I have not seen anything that resembles good analysis as it pertains coming from any of the large language models as it pertains to stocks, fundamentals, technicals, trading, day trading. I'm not a believer in any of them.
You are right, Papadopoulos. Is that how you say it? Is that it's like, so now I'll use Claude for, let's say, UI development, and then I'll use Chat for total backend stuff. And it works. That's how it works for me. But what I'm running and I'm creating, I shouldn't say this, you guys will, is I'm going to use what's it called? Kiwi? That's the Chinese model that is locked. It's kind of in a sandbox.
Kimi?
That's Kimi, yeah, through Vercel.
Oh, like data breach.
He'll signed a deal in 2026 at least Washington site. Oh, what does it?
I think that's somebody
mean?
predicting that will happen. So I think they're going to sign a deal. We'll see. It's not easy, as you can see. I mean, especially when you don't have anything ready. There's nothing turnkey. So that's a harder sales pitch, but they'll get it, I think.
I can't get over, I don't know, and I'm not saying I disagree or agree with my next statement, but I can't get over the number of people now are proposed to do not want to have a data center in their backyard. They just don't want to have it.
Oh, overwhelmingly.
Which I understand. There should be so many more regulations probably placed on data mining than there currently is, because you don't want to hear it. I don't want anybody to hear it or feel it. You know what I mean?
This is where your small modular reactors come in, portable power. It would be better, and I think this is what will happen ultimately. These are not for in the middle of a city or anywhere near a neighborhood. So, but for the time being, they're going to do them wherever they possibly can, because they are so desperate for compute that, let me try to find here. Micron's.
Here's the other
Go ahead, Josh.
thinking of another thing about Kill. Kill could be kind of like blacklisted right now too, by the way. I'm not saying it is, but every once in a while, people always do crazy things and make certain companies go to a certain, so they quote unquote bow to the right person so that they can do what they need to do.
So maybe somebody's taking their time building out a position, for instance.
Yeah.
We know that happens. I don't know that that's happening to Keel right now, but we know that certainly happens. I want to get to this. See, Micron CEO delivers blunt message for stock investors. So obviously this is a biased opinion. This is the CEO of a company that sells memory chips. Micron Technologies CEO Sanjay M. said AI is reshaping the memory market as demand for higher capacity and faster components grows. Speaking on CNBC's Mad Money, he said that data centers customers are seeking about 50% more memory supply than Micron can currently commit to. So that means that's 50% above Micron's total capacity. If they wanted to provide it, they couldn't. He also pointed to demand from autonomous vehicles, robots, and AI-enabled consumer products. The comments come as Micron expands its focus on future memory technologies. The company recently introduced a U.S. research center in Boise, Idaho, supported by a planned $10 billion investment over the next decade. Now, if you're worried, man, they're spending $10 billion, they're going to make like $120 billion of profit and cash flow in 2027. That's based on contracts written. So 10 billion is what they call pocket change. Now, I will tell you another thing that's happening there's 3 companies on Earth that make high bandwidth memory. And for those of you who've been here, I talk about Micron all the time. I am invested in Micron. I'm also invested in DRAM, DRAM, which is an ETF. And its 3 main positions are Micron, Samsung, and SK Hynix. Those are the only 3 companies in the world that make high bandwidth memory. The process is difficult. If somebody wants to join that race, it's going to take them 3, 4, 5 years to sell their first one. So, the next few years are pretty much on lockdown. SK Hynix announced a massive stock buyback. Samsung announced a bigger one. Micron is restricted. So a lot of people are going, well, how come Micron isn't doing a stock buyback? They've got nothing but cash. And the reason is that they participated in the CHIPS Act. So, in particular, the facility they're building in New York received significant funds from the United States Federal CHIPS Act. So, they have limitations on what they can do for some portion of the next somewhere between 6 to 12 months. But they do plan on doing buybacks as soon as that runs out. So the AI thing, my point of this is whether you care about Micron or not, the demand is overwhelming. And the 2 bottlenecks are high bandwidth memory, and there's others. But the 2 absolute most significant bottlenecks, this is a hardware company that's above 85% gross profit. That's higher than most software companies. And it is because there aren't any of these left. People will pay anything for them. They're also signing multi-year deals just to get them at any cost, because if they don't get them, they can't make their product and they can't continue to function as a business. Now, yes, somewhere 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, this will get back into balance, but because it's so complicated, it won't in the middle. And there's so much demand for this that the other half of this equation is, yes, there's a massive shortage on chips and there's a massive shortage on power, which is why when I see all of these stocks red today, right? CoreWeave down 2%, Core Scientific down 3%, HUT, which is straight power, down almost 9%, TeraWolf 5%, CIFR 8%, CleanSpark 5%, Riot 5.5%. I do believe most of the companies I just mentioned already have multi-billion-dollar contracts. If they can all reach critical mass, if they can fill the capacity that they're making at the prices they're selling them for, which, by the way, are going up right now, this is massively profitable business. So on the surface, these CapEx costs seem exorbitant. They seem extraordinary. But the cash flow that this generates, in my opinion, you will see makes it worth it. My point being, we were across the board red today. We should look at what these stocks did this week because one day does not make a picture. So let's finish up by looking at the week, the month, and the year. Here's
Did you know that they're playing NFL preseason right now?
Oh, no, I did not know that. I mean, I know they're doing it in general. I didn't know there was a game on at this moment.
The most unbelievable play. It was awesome. Sorry.
Okay, so, all right, we're about 2/3, 1/3 on this oil thing. So there are a significant amount of people that are worried about oil. And, that's real. Okay, so here's what happened this week. There was the haves and the have-nots. Bitcoin up 22% on the week. That's from the Friday close to the Friday close. It's up much more than that. It's already up $1,500 since the U.S. equity markets closed. BitDR up 25%. So BitDR is the largest Bitcoin miner. So to me, it makes perfect sense that they are the biggest winner on the week. They also got a big AI contract, a multi-billion-dollar AI contract. So they are involved in both, but they are by far the biggest Bitcoin miner. Marathon's the second biggest Bitcoin miner. It ran up 22%, equal to Bitcoin this week. Hive is almost solely a Bitcoin miner. They're much smaller, but they're almost completely Bitcoin miner at this point. They do have some small AI deals, none in the billions, but some in the hundreds of millions. ABTC is a straight Bitcoin miner. And then Riot, I do think Riot ultimately will not mine Bitcoin. They still continue to do so. They haven't bought a new machine in at least 3 years. I don't know that they'll ever buy another one again. I think they're in the AI data center business going forward. That's it. So the Bitcoin adjacent stocks were up this week anywhere from a little to a lot. The other ones, not so much. So at the bottom of the list, the two biggest big dogs, CoreWeave down 17%, Nibius down 21%. Those are big moves down, but they have had gigantic runs. We looked at the market caps. They're still triple the market cap of the next closest company on this list. They're 10 or 15 times the market cap of most of the rest of the companies on this list. So the guys at the top that have run the hardest got hit. Applied Digital down 13, Core Scientific down 12, CIFR down 12, TeraWolf down 10, Keel down 5, HUT down 5, IREN down 5, CleanSpark down 1. So almost break even on the week. Not quite. On the month, Look at ABTC. 44% on the month. Now, they're still in last place by a mile year to date. But we did call out, I will say, at the end of July, for the first time in the history of their company, which is not very long, I said, I think ABTC is a buy. I'm not buying any. I said it at the time. I say it again. It's not for me, but this went from the easiest short in the stock market to a buy. But in the middle, it went down 98%. So that's why. So it's up 44% from the bottom after it got wiped out. CoreWeave's still up 22% after being one of the worst performers on the week. It's still one of the best performers on the month. All of the movement this month in BitDeer was this, or in Bitcoin was this week. And then you see we have some green. So CoreWeave, NeoCloud, Nibius, NeoCloud, IREN, NeoCloud, BitDeer and Hive, hybrid. So they had good weeks. At the bottom, CIFR, or month. At the bottom, CIFR is down 29% this month. HUT is down 25% this month. HUT had been the best performer of the year all year. It still might be even down this 25% on the month. So we see a lot of these guys are red on the month. I don't have the 3 new stocks year to date yet, so I need to fix that. But if we look at year to date, ABTC, even after a 44% move to the upside, is still down 69% year to date. BitDeer, this red should actually be green. It went green on the week, on the year. So it's up 1%. HUT, even after their bad month, is still in first place, but it's getting a lot closer. They were running away with this. Everything is way, way down off of their highs. We had 4 or 5 companies up over 100% at one point. Now we have 0. HUT's in the lead at 76. RIOT is actually the second best performer on the year. Bitfarms / Keel up 41. TerraWolf 36. Marathon 25. So Marathon, for as much as I am going to sell the stock and I do nothing but complain about it, it's actually doing better than most of these companies year to date. It's just not doing very well. It has not done well for years. So I've had my limit. Really, the only thing left in the red, this looks red, but it's actually up 1%. The only thing left in the red is ABTC. And I suspect it's going to have an almost impossible time getting green on the year this year. That 44% move to the upside made it go from down 76% to down 69%. So you can see it's got a 2, 3, 4, 5x to get back to 0. And so that's a pretty optimistic outcome. Bitcoin at 78,300 as we head into the weekend. Any parting thoughts, George? I cannot hear you. I don't know if your volume's off. Oh, he may be on a call. Can you guys hear George? Well, I don't know what happened, but we're wrapping it up anyway. So, George, if you can hear me, and everybody else, thank you guys so much for joining us on our Friday public live stream. For those of you who are members, and I still see a bunch of members hanging out, thanks for supporting the channel. If you are not a subscriber, or if you haven't smashed the like button, it does help us out. It's free. We appreciate it. As always, we'll see the members on Tuesday after the market closes. I think we're going to know a lot by Tuesday. The weekend, we'll see what happens. It's low volume. But I think Monday and Tuesday are going to tell us a lot about what's next for Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, everybody enjoy your weekend. Have a fantastic weekend. George, if you can hear me, have a fantastic... Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was just... Wait, before you do that, The token's going to be used on the prediction market that we're building, which is supposed to start September 1st. And we're going to try to do something that's easy to understand and not really complicated.
You want to spend just a minute and give them a...
Yeah, I'm watching. I was watching football.
You're watching football on the stream?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Objection.
No, just we feel that with the prediction market that there's a lot of opportunities. And we looked at, it's not, so we're going to run it, but we're just going to be the house. We're not going to, be the ones betting against you or anything like that. That will just be other people. And that's the reason, that's how it works, by the way. That's how predictive markets work. And it's just, I think it's fun personally. I really have gotten into it. I did only 2 predictions I did them on Coinbase, and that was for will they lower the interest rates in either July or September? And the payouts is what I like about it. So like I took something that's 1%. I didn't go nuts. I just bought like $200 worth, but it pays out like $4,000. And so to me, I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be fun. Tom is a statistician, by the way. Tom can remember stats, like just the most obscured stats with the NFL. You probably even, I'm sure he knows college teams too, but he just remembers all the stats. And so it's like, we want to make sure that we use his ability for the best that we can, right? I mean, and that's, so that's just so much fun when you're talking to somebody, go, oh yeah, did he throw 20 interceptions or just stupid stuff like that?
But we won't be on the other side of the bets.
Yeah, no, but and that's the whole reason we want to do it.
And I think it's important to talk about the fees because I know you had a bad experience with massive fees.
Oh yeah, we're going to do something very low and feasible. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy because they're already making billions of dollars. So we wanted to do something that's a very low entry that is fair to everybody, and they don't. So what this one company does is like is it 1%, they take a bigger fee because your payout could be bigger. Right. It just blows my mind that they do that.
They're taking a percentage, I think, on some combination of the payout. So if you bet on a long shot, your fee might be more than you're actually betting.
Right. And actually mine was, by the way.
So that we don't think that makes sense or that that's fair.
No. We're just going to try to have like standardized pricing because anytime you do variables on anything, it just gets more confusing. So, yeah. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing.
All right. Thank you, George.
Tom.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
See you guys.